But we have our fighters who are still with us and are charged to continue the fight. And so this evening, we also want to recognize some very special guests who are here. I'd like to acknowledge William Bill Lucy, the former Secretary of AFSCME, who was a part of that history of I Am. The current Secretary Treasurer of AFSCME, Laura Reyes. Laura. First woman Secretary Treasurer. You see, that's what the promised land was looking like, you guys. Liz Schuler, the Secretary Treasurer of the AFL-CIO and my partner at the AFL-CIO. Another first. We have Harry Johnson, President of the Martin Luther King Memorial Foundation. Gary Moore, President of the Tennessee AFL-CIO Labor Council. Hello, my brother Gary, so good to see you tonight. Reverend Dwight Montgomery of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference is with us. My brother Harold Shakeberger, the President of the International Association of Firefighters. Bishop William Graves. The Honorable Ernestine Hunt Dorff. Reverend Keith Norman, President of the Memphis NAACP. Lee Harris, Memphis City Council member. And I assume if he's in this room, he's doing the right thing on behalf of those workers. I hope he is. Thomas Malone, President of the Memphis International Association of Firefighters. Paul Schaefer, Vice President of the Memphis Labor Council. Deborah Goodwin, Memphis Labor Attorney. Mike Williams, President of the Memphis Police Association. Keith Williamson, President of the Memphis Education Association. Danny Todd and Joe Norman, District Vice President of IAFF, International Firefighters. Thank all of you, and if I didn't call your names, we'll get it and we will recognize you later. And now we're about to move to this wonderful panel. This evening you've heard what we discussed in terms of the mighty coalition that it will take to move our nation forward. And we are the coalition if we're together. Tonight we are so very, very pleased that our panel will be moderated by Karen Finney, a long time committed activist for social and economic justice. If you know anything about Karen, you know she speaks the truth no matter what venue she's in. Aren't we proud of her? But we're going to get to even hear more of her truth speaking because she is about to become a new MSNBC weekend host. I am so very proud to turn it over now to my sister, Karen Finney. Karen.
It's really an honor to be here with all of you tonight in this place of history with this incredible panel, with this incredible audience and the incredible people that you're going to hear from. I'm going to introduce our panel. I'm not going to say much because I know these guys have a lot to say. And then each of them are going to do a little opening statement. We'll see how that goes. And then we're going to try and have a conversation. So I'm going to start to my immediate left and moving across the stage. Van Jones, in addition to being a friend, is president and co-founder of Rebuild the Dream. He's also a New York Times best-selling author of 2 books, The Green Collar Economy and Rebuild the Dream. The organization Rebuild the Dream provides a platform for grassroots innovation to help fix the United States economy, from racial justice to environmental justice. Ben has done it all, constantly finding the intersections between issues to move the entire progressive movement forward. And I have to admit, he is also a contributor to a rival network that will be called CNN. Johanna Hester is president of the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, known as APALA. Under her leadership, APALA is working to advance comprehensive immigration reform legislation that works for all workers. And Johanna is also a leader in the UDW, the Home Care Providers Union in California. Congressman Steve Cohen has served Tennessee's 9th Congressional District, which includes much of Memphis, as United States Representative since 2007. During his time in Congress, he fought to raise the minimum wage, worked tirelessly for health care for all, and he was honored alongside Congressman John Lewis for his efforts to improve access to the justice system. And Terry O'Neill, another sister in this struggle. It's a feminist attorney and professor, president of the National Organization of Women, known as NOW. And for decades, Terry has been on the front line of the women's movement, advancing economic justice and ending sex discrimination. Terry's also worked endlessly to close the pay gap between men and women. And the man at the end probably needs no introduction. Mr. Benjamin Todd, President, Chief Executive Officer of the NAACP, the youngest leader of the century-old organization. Ben has fostered national programs on education, health, and criminal justice. And I have to say also, Ben has been doing incredible work on the front lines against the attacks on our constitutional right to vote.
If I may be so bold, please allow me a moment of self-indulgence. So I have a confession to make that's going to change how we see March 28, 1968. History has it recorded incorrect. It was not the invaders who caused the disturbance during the march. Neither was it the FBI plan inserted into the march to discredit Dr. King. It was myself and two of my homeboys who had just left school after drinking some Boom Farm Strawberry Hill wine and smoking some weed. When we got to the march, we got into at the very tail end. We got there late. When the front of the march got where Dr. King was, arrived at Maine and Bill, we were at 4th and Bill, the very
Excuse me, my dear brother. What I would like to ask you to do, please, is because of the part of the program, let us respect, please, the panel discussion at this moment. And we thank you so much. Your voice has been heard, and now we will go to the panel. Karen?
And with that, I'm going to start with Van and a few thoughts from him. We're going to shift gears back to our panel.
Now I'm curious, I'm kind of curious. But my clock is ticking, okay, I'm gonna start talking again. But it's interesting that the brother wanted to confess to not having done right. And give him a round of applause for being willing to confess to not having done right. And I think that I feel humbled to be here. First of all, it just feels good to be home. My father was born in Memphis. Yes. Willie Anthony Jones, he grew up in Orange Mound. That's right. And went to Melrose, don't get mad at me, but Melrose, okay. And he was in Memphis 45 years ago tonight, I was in utero with my twin sister. And you may have been here. He joined the military. He put himself through college. He put his little brother through college. Right there, stand up, Milton Douglas Jones, my uncle. Stand up, my hero, Milton Douglas Jones, who just retired from the Memphis City Police Department. And it just feels good to be home, 45 years later. And I feel that we all need to confess that none of us have done right. None of us have done right. If you look at what Dr. King was willing to do for people he didn't even know, and what we're not willing to do for people that we do know, are going through. So all of us need to confess. But I will say, and I know I'm almost out of time, I want to hear from my sisters and brothers here, but I will say this. My uncle was a police officer. My father was a principal of a public school. My mother was a school teacher. All that I am is a product of two movements. The civil rights movement, because the NAACP had to sue my home county for my father to be able to be a principal, number one. So thank you, Ben. But number two, the labor movement. The labor movement. My mother had good wages, and the whole black middle class had a pillar. Who is the black middle class? Firefighters, post office workers, school teachers, librarians, nurses. And now we live in a country where all of those people are under attack, being called public employees. Those are now the enemies now, the public employees. Now, Bishop Graves, when you were raising me and my family, you taught us wrong, and now I'm mad at you. Because you never told us these public employees were enemies of America. In fact, you didn't even let us call them public employees. We called them sir, ma'am, huh? We were taught to respect teachers. We were taught to respect the people who were the backbone of our community. We were taught to respect them. And now we live in a country where any politician will stand up and score cheap points by putting down a teacher, putting down our public school teachers. And it has to stop. And I think that we have to be brave enough and courageous enough to stand up for the heroes, the everyday heroes in our community. I'm going to hand the mic over. And not be intimidated. And not be intimidated. If Dr. King could face fire hoses and snipers and everything else to stand up, we can put up with some mean tweets and some people on Fox News. So thank you very much.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. And since we are confessing, I have a few confessions to make myself. My name is Johanna Puno Hester. I am the National President for the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance. I am the Director of Organizing and Field Services for the United Domestic Workers, AFSCME Local 3930. I am an International Vice President for my union, AFSCME. And I am an immigrant. So honored to be here tonight and to be part of a very powerful and very important conversation. We cannot do the work that we do if it wasn't for the foundation that Dr. King opened up for us. And so for that, I honor him And tonight I feel it is my duty and obligation to Dr. King for what he has given and contributed to our movement to take and move the movement forward. You see, the movement forward is fixing a very flawed immigration system that we have in this country. I am not new, and I am very familiar with the flaw of our system. You see, when I was 1, my father left for America. He left. He made a very hard and different but brave decision to leave his wife, his kids, to come and forge a better life for us here. He went and got a job as what's his job? A bellman, exactly, at a hotel. Thank you, Doug, my savior. As a bellman at a hotel. And he saved his money. He worked hard day in and day out. All the legal fees, all the lawyer fees. He put that together so he can bring his family up to America. 15 years later, I joined my father. The papers finally came. We were so happy, only to have our hearts broken by the fact that now we have to leave my mother behind. Growing up in a new country as a teenage girl with not have a mother around was really hard. And I felt her absence quite deeply in my heart. But I had to be strong, I had to be brave, and I had to remember the hardship that my father went through. I had to realize that all the doors that he had opened as a bellhop at that hotel was actually opening doors for me and my brothers. Now that's my obligation to him, to live a better life in America. Is it not? And that life experience is what's fueling the work that I do today. I may not be born here, but I know in America, we believe that hard work, respect, and dignity is something that we believe in very boldly in America, right? Right now, immigrants are working hard, contributing to our economy, but they're not getting any respect and dignity. No, they are not. They are treated with, and this injustice really hurts everyone here. Comprehensive reform won't cost us any money. If anything, it's going to generate $1.5 trillion to our economy and create an additional 750,000 jobs in America. As a member of the United Domestic Workers, I know home care workers are a crucial resource in caring for America's sick, elderly, and disabled. They do it all for less than $10 an hour. And all the unpaid, imagine all the unpaid overtime that they spend cooking, cleaning, and bathing their clients. They make less than minimum wage. Home care providers are the fastest growing job in America. That means that the people we count on to care for our families, guess what? They can't take care of themselves. And I don't think that this is the America that we want for our future, right? Here's another fact. Some studies show that one out of 5 home care providers are undocumented workers. This is part of the reason workers are undervalued and underpaid. Immigration is tied to workers' rights. And having a broken immigration system is creating a permanent tier of second-class workers, and it's dragging down the value of all our work. Comprehensive immigration reform is the only real way forward. We need to realize that we are all tied together by the common thread of hard work, love of country, and a driving desire for progress. This is what I learned from my father. This is what I'm going to teach my daughter. And I thank you so much for allowing me to share my story tonight. Si se puede, kaya natin, And yes, we absolutely can. Thank you.
Good evening. As the homeboy here, I think it's appropriate first that I welcome everybody to Memphis and give recognition of Brandon Porter, Bishop Porter, Superintendent Hawkins, Pastor Whalum, all the other members of the clergy, our esteemed President of AFSCME, President Saunders, and the illustrious and always illustrious homeboy, Bill Lucid. Martin, it's an honor to be here in front of the lectern where your father gave his last address. And it's an honor to be with all of you. It's an honor to represent you in Congress, even though this, the 113th Congress, properly numbered 113, is not the Congress I'd like for it to be. It's not like the 110th Congress where we made progress when we elected the first Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, and we made progress. Or the 111th Congress when we had a majority of the Democrats in the House and the Senate and President Barack Obama. We passed the Affordable Care Act. We passed the American Recovery Investment Act. We had raised the minimum wage. We passed Lee Ledbetter. We were moving forward. We passed hate crimes. We did things which were important to bring people together and make progress. And the course of history in this world and this country has always been progress and extending rights to people and extending opportunities and giving people opportunities to get those ladders of opportunity to move up and get into the middle class. But what we've seen since then, when the Republicans have taken over the House, is we've seen a stalling of legislation. We've seen opportunities only for the 1% to increase their greedy control over this country and their desire to get a hold of every union worker and privatize them so they can get the money from government to give the union workers less to make them work for them. We've seen it in the privatization of prisons. Now we're seeing it in Memphis with the privatization of sanitation workers. And it's to get the money from government that they hate in the hands of the upper 1% and the corporate greedy to control the money and take away the rights of the workers. This needs to stop, or this will not be the United States of America. There are words about to make a more perfect union. And for hundreds of years we've been doing that. Slavery, women's right to vote, workers' rights. It's been a long journey. We're still on that journey. We have to get together. Ben asked me, he said, can we win back the Congress? Can we win back the 114th for the Democrats? And I said no. And then I thought about it. It's going to be tough. It'll be historic. But these are historic times. And the fact is the Republicans have used, they've had whipping boys. They've had gays and guns. And society is turning to where people realize to attack gays or to embrace guns isn't what the majority of Americans want, and they are being cornered with their antiquated, wrong, hateful ideas. And as that turns against them, they're going to have nothing left, and the economic argument's against them. So if everybody gets together through this country, even in these congressional districts that have been redistricted for Republicans, and people vote their own economic interest in the economic interest of America, there's a chance with labor coming together, the faith community coming together, civil rights community coming together, that we can change the world, and we need to change it and get a Democratic Congress. Thank you very
much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry O'Neill. I'm the president of the National Organization for Women, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here. Karen said earlier that my organization has worked very hard to close the wage gap for women, and that's true. Today, on average, women are paid about 77 cents to the dollar paid to men. African American women, the number is 69 cents to the dollar paid to white males. For Latinas, the number is 59 cents to the dollar. Okay. How are you going to save for your kids' college on 59 cents to the dollar, on 69 cents to the dollar, right? How are you going to save for your own retirement when 2/3 of minimum wage workers in this country are women? And we know that minimum wage workers don't have health care in their jobs, they don't have pensions, They don't have 401k plans. So they work a lifetime at low wage, and they get to the end of their lifetime and they don't have savings. Women are disproportionately more likely than men to be financially responsible for children and for their elders. So the issue for women is less money coming in the door and more money going out the door. Okay. One of the keys to changing this reality for women is unions. So depending on how you count it, by some counts, women who are in unions are making 30% more than women workers who are not in unions. And a big reason for that, really, is that women cluster in industries and in jobs where there aren't any unions at all. But even within industries that are unionized, if a woman is in a unionized industry and she happens to belong to a union, she's making 10 to 13% more than her sister who does not belong to the union. Now, we've heard a little bit today about the unbelievable pressure that has been brought to bear on unions. It has really been 30 solid years of the Chamber of Commerce and the Business Roundtable pressuring wages to go down, getting legislation and regulatory relief for themselves so they can push wages down and bust unions. And frankly, in the past 15 years, some of the shrinkage in the wage gap has been the wrong kind of narrowing of the wage gap. It's been because men's wages have gone down. That's not what we wanted. We wanted the women's wages to come up. Congressman, you're absolutely right about what happened in the 2010 elections. It was an unmitigated disaster. How many? Raise your hand if you've heard of the war on women. It's been a war on women's access to reproductive health care, and it has been a war on women's economic security. It is the attacks on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, attacks on the social program. By the way, we're heading into a big budget debate right now. And a lot of people, and I do not exempt the White House from criticism. My organization, we like to say women were not born Republicans, but we were not born Democrats, and we certainly were not born yesterday.
Well, good evening. My name is Benjamin Todd Jealous. I'm the President and CEO of the NAACP. I would like to thank all the NAACP members in the audience. If you belong to the NAACP, raise your hand. Thank you. Let no one doubt that we rose to the challenge of this past year. I want to thank every NAACP member and leader, President Norman here, Bishop Graves, Bill Lucy, great national board members, Tennessee President Sweetlove. This last year, the NAACP killed voter suppression laws in 15 states. We registered more than 433,000 new voters, up from 125,000 in 2008. We turned out more than 1.2 million new and unlikely voters, up from 500,000 in 2008. And while we are nonpartisan, we know that about 93% of the voters that we registered voted for President Obama. And in the state of Florida alone, a state he only won by 60,000 votes, we registered more than 130,000 voters. We are here tonight, the invitation, the President Saunders, Secretary Treasurer Reyes. You're here tonight in the presence of Martin Luther King III, a son and a family that gave so much. Grandparents, parents, son of servants, servant himself. We are here tonight, let us not be confused, not so much as to mark the martyr. We'll do that tomorrow. But we are here tonight to remember what that martyr was about. See, some people worry that our leaders get stuck in a martyr complex. As Reverend Sharpton would remind us, he was able to be here tonight, I saw him earlier today. He would remind us what we need is a resurrection complex. That Dr. King was a resurrector. And when I look at my brother George Gresham, leader of 1199, in many ways, man who embodies, up in New York City, embodies the spirit of the late A. Philip Randolph. When I look at Paul Booth, great organizer, AFSCME, husband of a great organizer, Heather Booth. But when I look at these men who were here in 1968, Bill Lucy, and all these workers and organizers holding the signs, will pay tribute to them. What I wonder is whether we are willing to sacrifice in this day, to risk in this day. What needs to be sacrificed and what needs to be risked in order to resurrect a generation
Not my dignity.
that is headed, amen, brother, that is headed towards being the first to be worse off than its parents. See, I'm a fifth generation member of the NAACP. I'm blessed to have a grandma who was born on a little farm and a mom who was raised in the housing projects, who taught me that because of the NAACP and because of the labor movement, for every generation we've been involved in the NAACP, we've been involved in the labor movement, our family situation has gotten better off. But I'm also a father of a little girl and a little boy who are the sixth generation of our family belong to the NAACP.